My name is Jenna Whitmore. I'm 28 years old. A veteran of 2 overseas deployments. And last Tuesday, my boyfriend asked me a question he would later hear repeated in court. Do you love that stupid dog more than me? Ranger was lying beside my chair when Hayden sent it. His head rested across my boots. His breathing slow and steady, as though he already sensed the pressure tightening behind my ribs. Ranger is a 4-year-old German Shepherd, but calling him my dog barely explains what he is to me. He is a trained service animal prescribed for my PTSD. He interrupts panic attacks, wakes me before nightmares become violent, and grounds me when ordinary noises turn into memories of places I survived but never completely left behind. So I answered Hayden honestly. Yes. I assumed he would be angry for a few hours. I never imagined that answer would become evidence. When I came home from work 3 days later, the apartment felt wrong before I even closed the door. There was no clicking of nails against the floor. No warm body rushing toward me. No familiar weight leaning against my legs. Ranger. Silence. My pulse accelerated as I checked beneath my desk, beside his food bowl, and inside the bedroom. I knew he wasn't hiding. Ranger never hid from me. Hayden was sitting on the couch, scrolling through his phone. Where is Ranger? He didn't look up. At the shelter. For a moment, the words made no sense. What? I took him to the county shelter. Hayden finally raised his eyes. I'm tired of competing with a dog for your attention. My chest tightened so quickly that I had to grip the kitchen counter. Then, I saw Ranger's collar lying beside the sink. His service animal tags were attached. So was his registration tag, and the metal plate engraved with my phone number. You removed his collar. They wouldn't take him with all that hardware on. They said it was policy. The calmness in Hayden's voice frightened me more than anger would have. Which shelter? The Riverside one. I grabbed my keys. They're closed, he added. They open at 10 tomorrow. It was 6:30. The shelter had closed at 5. And Hayden knew I never finished work before 6. He had timed it. Hayden. Ranger is not just a dog. He is medical equipment. He was prescribed by my psychiatrist. Oh my God. Yenna. Stop being dramatic. It's one night. You can pick him up tomorrow. I called the shelter's emergency number. No one answered. Then I called the police non-emergency line. The dispatcher listened, documented what happened, but said that because the shelter was closed and no crime was currently in progress, I would need to wait until morning. Hayden went to bed as though nothing had happened. I didn't sleep. Each time I drifted off, I woke reaching toward the empty space beside the bed. Ranger usually noticed the change in my breathing before I did. He would press his body against mine or nudge my hand until I remembered where I was. Without him, every shadow became movement. Every sound from the hallway became boots on gravel. At 5 in the morning, I stopped trying to rest. Hayden's phone lit up on the nightstand. A message from his older sister appeared on the screen. Did you really do it? What did she say? I knew I shouldn't have touched his phone. I also knew he had taken the one creature responsible for keeping me medically stable. I unlocked it. Hayden had been discussing Ranger for days. Finally took that stupid dog to the pound. His sister had replied almost immediately. You actually did it. Yep. Maybe now she'll pay attention to me. Another message came from one of his friends. What if Jenna freaks out? She'll get over it. I scrolled farther. There was a conversation from Sunday. I swear, I'm getting rid of that dog. Don't do anything stupid. Watch me. She loves him more than me. Did you ask her? Straight up. I asked. Do you love that stupid dog more than me? What did she say? She said yes. His sister's next response made my stomach turn. Well, Hayden. Ranger is her service animal. I don't care. It's me or the dog. And I'm making the choice for her. I photographed every message and forwarded the screenshots to myself. At 9:45, I stood outside the Riverside County shelter with Ranger's registration papers. his training documents, photographs, and the prescription from my psychiatrist clutched against my chest. When the doors opened, I was the first person inside. I'm here for my service dog. A German Shepherd, brought in yesterday. His name is Ranger. The receptionist searched the computer. We have a German Shepherd listed as a stray. No collar and no chip scan recorded. He is chipped. He was wearing a collar when I left for work. I placed the documents on the desk. Her expression changed as she read them. If someone surrendered your service animal and falsely claimed he was a stray, that is a serious matter. She called her supervisor. 20 minutes later, a door opened at the end of the hallway. Ranger appeared between two employees. He looked exhausted and frightened. But the instant he saw me, he pulled free and ran. He nearly knocked me backward as he climbed against my chest, whining in a way I had never heard before. I buried my face in his fur. I'm sorry, I whispered. I'm so sorry. The shelter supervisor crouched beside us. The person who brought him here removed his identification and signed paperwork claiming she or he had found him wandering loose. Surrendering someone else's animal is theft. Lying on the intake forms may also constitute fraud. I know who did it. Would you like us to contact the police? I looked down at Ranger, still trembling against me. Yes. The drive home was silent. Ranger pressed against my leg the entire way. Hayden was making coffee when we entered. Oh, you got him back. He shrugged. See, I told you everything would be fine. Pack your things. He laughed. You're kicking me out over a dog. Yes. You have 1 hour. We've been together for 8 months. And you stole my service animal? I was trying to prove a point. You did. His smile faded. What point? That you are not safe for me. Hayden began shouting. He called me unstable, selfish, and obsessed. He said no normal woman would choose an animal over a man. I already chose. I said, you asked me, and I told you yes. You just didn't believe me. I called my friend Derek, another veteran, and asked him to come over while Hayden packed. He arrived 15 minutes later. Hayden shoved clothes into bags, alternating between anger and tears. You're treating me like a criminal. You removed Ranger's collar, lied to a shelter, and stole prescribed medical support from a disabled veteran. I said, you are a criminal. His face went pale. As he reached the door, he turned toward me. You'll regret this. No other man will tolerate you being this obsessed with a dog. Good, I said. Then I'll know he isn't the right man. 3 days later, Officer Martinez sat across from me with the screenshots spread across my kitchen table. He pointed to Hayden's message about making the choice for me. This shows intent, he said. He planned it. He knew what he was doing was wrong. What charges could he face? The program values Ranger's training at approximately $20,000. Theft over $5,000 may be charged as a felony. There may also be fraud-related charges and interference involving a service animal. My phone began vibrating. Hayden, the police called me. Are you serious? Then another, I'm sorry. I didn't think you would react like this. A third appeared seconds later. Yenna, please. My employer is asking about criminal charges. I turned the phone face down. Officer Martinez gathered the evidence. Do you want to proceed? Ranger rested his head across my feet. For years, I had mistaken silence for peace. I had survived by minimizing what hurt me, convincing myself that consequences were crueler than the actions that caused them. I looked at the collar Hayden had left on the counter. Yes, I said. I want to press charges. The call started before Officer Martinez had even finished filing his report. Hayden texted from his own number first. Please answer me. I made a mistake. Then his mother called. Then his sister. Then 2 friends whose numbers I didn't recognize. Every message said the same thing in a different way. Hayden had acted out of jealousy. Hayden was emotional. Hayden had only wanted my attention. I was taking things too far by involving the police. His mother's message was the worst. Jenna, my son loves you. Men sometimes do stupid things when they feel ignored. Please don't ruin his future over one bad decision. I stared at the words until they blurred. One bad decision would have been shouting during an argument. One bad decision would have been leaving the apartment for a night. Hayden planned to take Ranger. He removed his identification, lied to the shelter staff, and left him there, knowing I would spend the night without the medical support I depended on. That wasn't a mistake. It was a sequence of choices. I blocked every number. That evening, Derek stayed at my apartment because the separation had triggered the worst stretch of nightmares I'd experienced in months. Ranger barely left my side. Even when I moved from the couch to the kitchen, he followed close enough for his shoulder to brush my leg. Around 7, someone began pounding on the front door. Jenna Hayden shouted from the hallway, "I know you're in there." Ranger rose immediately, positioning himself between me and the sound. Derek opened the door but kept his body in the frame. "She doesn't want to see you. This is between me and my girlfriend." "Ex-girlfriend," Derek corrected. "And you need to leave." Hayden tried to look past him. "Jenna, call the police and tell them this was a misunderstanding. They contacted my job. Do you understand what this could do to me?" I stayed in the bedroom, with one hand resting on Ranger's back. Derek's voice remained calm. "There's a protective order. You're not supposed to come near her." The hallway went silent. "What protective order?" "The one included with the paperwork you received after being charged with stealing a service animal." "I didn't steal him. I knew where he was the entire time." "That doesn't make it less of a crime." Hayden's voice sharpened. "She's doing this to punish me." "No," Derek said. "She's doing it because you endangered her." Hayden kicked the wall before storming away. An hour later, texts arrived from unfamiliar numbers. "I can't come within 100 feet of you. Are you happy now?" Another followed. "I'm losing everything because of you. Then, I'll pay for Ranger." Is that what this is about? That message made my hands shake. Ranger was not an item Hayden could replace with a check. He was trained over 2 years to recognize changes in my breathing, posture, and scent. He knew how to interrupt dissociation before I became trapped inside it. He knew when to wake me and when to remain still. There was no amount of money Hayden could offer that would erase the night Ranger spent, frightened in a shelter because of him. The next morning, Assistant District Attorney Tara Morales called me. "We're taking this seriously," she said. "Service animal interference is often minimized because people assume the animal is only a pet. Your evidence proves Mr. Coleman knew Ranger's medical purpose. I don't want revenge. Accountability and revenge are not the same thing." I looked at Ranger asleep near my desk. "I just don't want him to do this to anyone else. Then let us handle the case." 2 weeks after Hayden moved out, the charges were formally filed. Felony theft of property valued over $5,000, filing false information, fraud, and unlawful interference with a service animal. His attorney immediately tried to negotiate. Hayden was willing to plead guilty to a minor misdemeanor if the felony counts were dismissed. Tara refused. That was when Hayden's apology disappeared. He started telling people that I had abused him and neglected Ranger. He claimed he had taken Ranger to the shelter because the dog was left alone all day without food or exercise. The lie reached my workplace through the wife of one of my coworkers. She heard Hayden talking at a coffee shop. "Luis told me. He said Ranger was locked inside the apartment while you worked." Ranger came to work with me every day. I managed a veteran-owned auto shop, and Ranger had his own bed in my office. Customers knew him. My coworkers carried treats in their pockets for him. There were dozens of photographs and security recordings showing him beside me during every shift. When the rumor failed, Hayden began calling the shop. He asked to speak to my supervisor and claimed he had concerns about my emotional stability. My boss, Marcus, listened once before stopping him. "You're calling a veteran-owned business to harass an employee because she reported you for stealing her service animal," Marcus said. Call again, and I'll include the recordings in a police report. Hayden stopped calling. 3 days later, he appeared at the shop during the lunch rush, carrying a cardboard box. I need to return Jenna's belongings, he told Louise. Nothing inside the box belonged to me. It contained old shirts, a coffee mug, and a paperback novel I had never seen. You can leave it here, Louise said. I need to give it to her personally. There is a protective order. Hayden's eyes filled with tears, just as several customers turned toward him. She's destroying my life over a dog. I have criminal charges. My landlord is asking questions. My job might fire me. All because I wanted my girlfriend to care about me. Louise called the police. Hayden left before they arrived, but not before making sure everyone in the lobby had heard his version. That evening, his mother came to my apartment. She held out a check for $20,000. This is what the training program says. Ranger is worth, she said. Take it, and ask the prosecutor to drop the charges. It doesn't work that way. The state is prosecuting him. They'll listen if you stop cooperating. I looked at the check, but didn't touch it. Your son stole medical support from a disabled veteran? That's no different from taking someone's wheelchair or oxygen tank. He could lose his job, his apartment, his future. I could have lost my life during a panic episode that night. Her expression hardened. Is prison what you want? I wanted to come home and find Ranger waiting for me. She left the check on the table near the door. I photographed it, sealed it in an envelope, and gave it to my attorney as possible evidence of witness interference. At the pretrial hearing, Hayden wore a dark suit and kept his hair neatly combed. He looked smaller than I remembered. His lawyer described the case as a private relationship dispute that had been exaggerated by emotion. Mr. Coleman felt neglected, she argued. He acted impulsively and immediately regretted it. Tara displayed the messages on a courtroom screen. I swear I'm getting rid of that dog. Watch me. I'm making the choice for her. Then, she played the shelter's security footage. Hayden entered with Ranger on a short leash. Ranger repeatedly looked toward the door, resisting, as Hayden pulled him forward. On the recording, Hayden told the receptionist he had found Ranger wandering near the road. "No color," he said. "No idea who owns him." Watching Ranger search the room for me broke something open inside my chest. The judge denied the request to dismiss the charges. Outside the courtroom, Hayden's parents approached me. His father stepped forward. "Jenna. He made a terrible decision, but he's facing actual prison time. Don't you think this has gone far enough? I'm not the one deciding his sentence. You could help him. I already helped him for 8 months." I explained my PTSD. I explained Ranger's role. He used that knowledge against me. His mother began crying. He's our only son. And Ranger was my lifeline. You're ruining his life. I looked through the courthouse doors at Hayden standing beside his attorney. No, I said. He ruined his life when he decided my medical safety mattered less than his jealousy. As I walked away, Hayden called my name. For 1 second, I turned. His face held no regret, only anger. That was when I understood the apology had never been real. He wasn't sorry he had taken Ranger. He was sorry I had survived it without forgiving him. The trial began 5 weeks later. I expected to feel nervous walking into the courthouse. Instead, I felt strangely calm. Ranger walked beside me, wearing his service vest, his pace steady, his attention focused entirely on me. Just feeling the light pressure of his shoulder against my leg reminded me why I was there. This case had never been about revenge. It had always been about the moment I opened my apartment door and discovered someone I loved had deliberately taken away the one thing keeping me medically stable. The prosecution began by explaining exactly what Ranger meant in my daily life. My psychiatrist testified first. She described my PTSD, the panic attacks, the nightmares, and the medical decision to prescribe a service animal after other treatments alone weren't enough. Then Ranger's trainer took the stand. She explained the nearly 2 years of specialized work that transformed Ranger from a young German Shepherd into a fully trained psychiatric service animal. He isn't simply obedient, she told the jury. He's trained to recognize physiological changes before Ms. Whitmore notices them herself. He interrupts panic episodes, wakes her from traumatic nightmares, creates physical barriers in crowded environments, and helps prevent medical crises. She paused before adding quietly, replacing a service animal isn't like replacing a pet. The partnership itself is part of the treatment. I watched several jurors nod. Then came the text messages, one after another. The prosecutor projected them across the courtroom screen. I swear I'm getting rid of that dog. Watch me. She loves him more than me. Then the conversation every person in the courtroom had already heard about. Did you ask her? Yeah. What did she say? She said yes. The prosecutor looked toward the jury. The defendant wasn't confused about the relationship between Miss Whitmore and Ranger. He was jealous of it. Hayden stared at the table. His attorney called him to testify. He walked to the witness stand, looking exhausted. I loved Jenna, he began quietly. I just felt invisible. His lawyer encouraged him to explain. Everywhere we went, Ranger came first. Every vacation, every restaurant, every night. I felt like there wasn't room for me anymore. He wiped his eyes. I wasn't trying to hurt her. I just thought, maybe if Ranger was gone for one night, she'd finally realize how much she was ignoring me. For a brief moment, I almost recognized the man I had once cared about. Then cross-examination began. Assistant District Attorney Tara Morales approached with a folder. Mr. Coleman, did Ms. Whitmore tell you Ranger was a psychiatric service animal when you first began dating? Yes. Did she explain why she needed him? She mentioned PTSD. Only mentioned it. Tara opened another exhibit. I'd like to display Defense Exhibit C. A text message appeared on the screen. Jake. No. Now it read, Hayden to friend Jenna. Explained her whole PTSD service dog situation. It's actually incredible. Tara looked back at him. Do you remember sending that message? Yes. So months before this incident, you understood exactly why Ranger existed. Yes. You knew separating Miss Whitmore from Ranger could trigger severe psychological distress. You didn't think, she interrupted him gently, or you didn't care. His attorney objected immediately. Sustained. But the silence after the objection said more than any answer could have. The shelter supervisor testified next. She explained that Hayden had removed Ranger's identifying collar before surrendering him. He specifically told staff he had found the dog wandering loose. Did he appear uncertain? No. Did he hesitate while filling out the paperwork? Not at all. The surveillance footage played again. This time I forced myself to watch every second. Ranger kept stopping, looking behind him, searching every doorway. When Hayden tightened the leash, Ranger resisted, before finally following. I remembered wondering, that entire night, whether he believed I had abandoned him. That thought hurt more than anything else. When it was my turn to testify, Tara asked only a handful of questions. What happened when you returned home that evening? I couldn't find Ranger. What did the defendant tell you? He said he'd taken Ranger to the shelter because he was tired of competing with him. How did spending that night without Ranger affect you? I looked at the jurors. I experienced repeated panic attacks and severe nightmares. Ranger is trained to interrupt both. Without him, I didn't sleep. Why didn't you simply retrieve him immediately? The shelter was already closed. Who chose the timing? The defendant? That was all. I didn't cry. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. The evidence had already told the story. Closing arguments came the following afternoon. Hayden's attorney pleaded for compassion. This is a young man who made a terrible decision because he desperately wanted attention from the woman he loved. Tara stood only a few feet away. This case is not about hurt feelings. She held up Ranger's service identification. This defendant intentionally removed medical identification. She held up the intake form. He knowingly lied to shelter employees. She displayed the messages again. He planned this for days. Then she looked directly at the jury. Love does not justify theft. Jealousy does not erase intent. And a service animal is not merely a pet. The jury deliberated for just over 3 hours. When they returned, no one looked surprised. Guilty. 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 Every count. Hayden closed his eyes. His mother began crying before the clerk finished reading the verdict. Sentencing took place the next morning. The judge spoke for several minutes. Mr. Coleman. This court recognizes the unique role service animals play in the lives of disabled individuals. You stole medical equipment from a vulnerable veteran. You planned the offense. You lied repeatedly. And after criminal charges were filed, you continued harassing the victim instead of accepting responsibility. He paused. The court also considered your attempts to manipulate public opinion and your continued violations leading to additional distress for Ms. Whitmore. The sentence followed: 18 months in state prison, 3 years of supervised probation, $20,000 in restitution, reflecting Ranger's training value, $5,000 toward my therapy and legal expenses. A permanent prohibition against owning or working with animals, 200 hours of community service with veterans after release. Hayden lowered his head. His parents looked devastated as everyone filed out of the courtroom. His mother hurried toward me one final time. I hope you're satisfied. There was no anger left in her voice. Only exhaustion. You've destroyed my son's life. I looked down at Ranger sitting quietly beside me. He had spent the entire proceeding exactly where he belonged. Safe. Home. No. I answered softly. He destroyed his own life when he chose jealousy over compassion. I simply refused to pretend it never happened. She said nothing else. She turned and followed her husband toward the courthouse exit. A week has passed since sentencing. The nightmares have become less frequent. My therapist told me something that stayed with me. Standing up for Ranger was also standing up for yourself. I think she was right. Yesterday, I received one last anonymous message. Hope you can live with yourself, knowing Hayden is already in prison. I looked at Ranger sleeping beside my desk before deleting it. Yes, I can. Because every time I wake from a nightmare and feel Ranger gently nudge my hand back toward the present, I'm reminded of one simple truth. He was never just a dog. He was the lifeline someone tried to steal. And protecting that lifeline was the first real step toward reclaiming my own